Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I am your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. I'm thrilled that you're listening. I would love if you would subscribe. Just click on that button. But I had the most exciting game of the year last night against the Orlando Magic. For me, it was the most special game because I got to meet a bunch of my listeners. I wish I could meet each and every one of you and to see the passion on their faces. We have something special. I mean, we're the worst team in the NBA, but we have a bond. Our fans, I think, are united, and we love our Pistons, and we all care. But I'm standing in line outside the arena with my granddaughter and her boyfriend, and we're waiting to get in so we can get our Cade Cunningham bobblehead, and Drew and Denny Young Dyke are there, and father and son came together and to celebrate a birthday, and it was just so special. Come to find out, so Denny lives in Tennessee now. He's from my neck of the woods up in northern Michigan, and he was a football coach there, and his son played for him quarterback, and it seemed like a great father and son relationship. And Denny listens to the podcast all the time because he doesn't get the games in Tennessee, and he loves the Pistons. And so it was really cool talking to those guys, and we had a lot in common. And then I get to meet Cade and Gabe and two more of their buddies that are listen every episode, and they are so geeked. Those guys are just, they have a lot of passion for our Pistons, and I just love being around them. I almost didn't want to go into the game. I could have just stood there and talked to them for hours. And then I'm walking around and I run into PJ Carlson, and he's cool and exciting. And he was, it was very special to meet PJ. And then another thing I just want to mention out there, I went down on Friday night before the game. I got to watch my granddaughter play, and I know I've talked to her about her before, but she's a sophomore at Saline, a big Class A high school. And Friday night she scored 20 points and had six threes in a tough loss to a really good Howell team. But now she has 66 on the year, and she broke the school record for the most threes in a season. And she has at least 3 games left. She has more games to add to her total. But it was really cool and special to watch that, and it was special to go with her and her boyfriend to the game. But the Pistons lost 112 to 109, and what a game it was! So thrilling. Our guys played tough. Our defense is looking better, and I think that it was Quentin Grimes' first game, but he played a D-man. He was right up into him. He didn't shoot great, but he was playing defense, and I think that is contagious. I think we fought over picks, and that's what he really does. We used to switch everything. It doesn't seem like we're switching everything, but we got at least 4 24-second violations on them, so that was cool. But it was a tough loss. It said there was 19,388 people there, and it was a great crowd and very energetic and right into the game. Maybe the highlight of the game down the stretch, the camera finds a fan in the stands, and there's this little boy, and he's sticking his finger in his nose, and sure enough, he put it in his mouth. But anyway, a lot of tough things happened in this game. It was a lot of bad calls against us and a lot of just tough luck. So here's Wendell Carter, Gary Harris, Jonathan Isaac, and Jalen Suggs. Harris is a good three-point shooter. The other guys are not known at all for their three-point shooting. They combined for 10 for 13 on three-pointers. So that in itself is the game. And Cade was terrific again, and he made 2 huge clutch shots right at the end of the game, including one with 12 seconds left. But Cade Cunningham, 2 games, back-to-back games, he scores 56 points. Guess how many free throws he shot? In both games combined, 0. And it's just wrong. And again, I think it's the speed that he plays at. But all of our starters, except Duran got, I think, 6 free throws. The rest of our starters combined for 0 free throws. And all of them except for Asar played over 30 minutes. And they got, except for Duran, shot 0 free throws. And, Cade takes the ball at the basket. It's just is crazy how that happens. Last podcast I mentioned how we had a 3-game stretch where we got outshot 100 to 46 on free throws. But yeah, Cade was heroic down at the end. He had another great game, shot a good percentage. they're limiting his minutes, and Monty talked about it after the game a little bit, and so, but I couldn't hardly stand myself. Here I am, I'm sitting there at the game, and I don't have the greatest seats for this game, but Troy Weaver comes up and sits with some other guys, I don't know, front office guys, and they're sitting like 4 rows in front of me, and I'm dying. I'm dying to say something to him, and then I decide I'm just going to wait, and so when he gets up to leave, I'm going to say it. So unfortunately, he got up to leave with like 7 seconds left in the game, and then the public address system is just like blaring music, so he was never going to hear me. But all I wanted to say was, you better fire Monty before you get fired, because I really think this is what's going to happen. I mean, I think that obviously, you know, he is not using the roster, I think, the way that Troy wants it used. Monty's not. And so he's playing all these guys. And so we really just have to think, you know, we talk about it all the time about Monty's substitution and rotations and how terrible it is, and playing 11 guys and stuff. But here we have to have an organizational meeting, Monty and Troy, because why are we playing? We can't just keep on playing all these guys. And then when there's a high likelihood that they're not going to be back. Their contracts are not, they're free agents at the end of the year, unrestricted free agents, you know, Brown and Flynn and a whole bunch of these guys are, and we're playing them. And so anyway, I did feel better. I didn't feel better that Sasser was injured, but I was livid when I didn't notice he was a late scratch. So he got knocked down in the last game against Indiana, no foul called, and then he hurt his knee. And so I'm not sure when he's going to be back, but they play Flynn, and he played okay. But the problem is, it's not even the point about how they play. The point is, you know, they might look good, but, you know, and again, Troy Brown Jr. had another game 1 for 4, and we just can't play guys minutes. And the star had some foul trouble, and so he did have to sit some. But yeah, I would have loved to tell, because I think that if we're not playing better by December, then they have to fire Troy, and as long as Monty's there calling the shots, you know, he's not going to play the guys that I think that Troy had envisioned to play, and so that's going to be a big thing. Again, Monday's going to be very interesting. Every game's fascinating, and going to be more interesting when Stu comes back. We could have really used Stu last night. They have those big guys. You know, they have Paulo and Franz and Mo Wagner and Jonathan Isaac, who played really good. A bunch of my listeners would love to have him, and so would I. Wendell Carter, and so they had all those big guys, and, you know, we're down there with Duran, and so our other guys played okay, but we did get out rebounded. And a bunch of times, I mean, when that game went back and forth all the time. It was, you know, the lead changed hands at least like 13 times. But they would miss a shot, and then we would make a great stop, and then they got their offensive board, and, you know, then they would score, and so that was really hurtful for that to happen. So, my granddaughter pointed out to me that at halftime the Pistons were shooting 50% from the floor overall, 50% on threes, and 50% on free throws. How weird is that? The only thing weirder is the Magic at halftime were shooting 60% from the floor, 60% on threes, and 63% on free throws. And, I mean, how teams can shoot that great from the floor and from three and shoot that terrible on free throws is remarkable. And both teams are not, you know, haven't been great shooting teams, but it was awesome to see Grimes, and I'm excited for him. Unfortunately, he made like one of his first 7 shots, and it was a breakaway wide open dunk, and he missed the other shots he took. And then at the end, he knocked down a 3. But he's been a real good 3-point shooter. His shot looks good, but he is just tough. So he's a lot shorter than Franz, but he just bodied up on him and played him really, really tough. And again, I think it's going to be contagious. I think his defense is going to be contagious because he does take it to another level. So it's going to be fun to see. But there's a lot of big decisions. You know, Fournier was in the game and played a lot, and he's played quite well. And so we have a team option for him, but it's for quite a bit of money. It's like, I think, $19 million that he's got for next year. So we can keep him if we want him, I think. And then, but we also can release him if we want to. But he does look good, and I will say this: it's fun to go to games because then you get to see what happens on the sidelines and during breaks and timeouts and things. And he appears to be a real leader, along with Muscala, who didn't play again for the third consecutive game. But those guys are good vets that are good leaders. And Fournier's a bucket, man. He shot great again tonight. So it is going to be hard to see what happens. But I got to give props to Monty. 12 seconds left in the game. So, I'm just going to go through the end of the game real quick. So, it's a close game. It's 106-103, and Duren blocks Wendell Carter. Great block right at the rim. And Duren had 4 blocks last night, which was tough. And then 2:02, Cade comes down the court and dishes it to Duren, who gets fouled. It was a late whistle. We didn't think they were going to call, and then Duren makes 2 free throws. Then Franz comes down and makes a bucket with under 2 minutes left, and they're up by 3. Then Ivy brings the ball up. He's going to do a dribble hand. He's going to hand it off, I think, to Grimes. And Suggs, who's a nasty, tough defender. He's tough, and he's physical, but he sticks his hand in there and fouls Ivy. No call. Knocks the ball away. It goes towards Duren. Duren can't grab it, and then one of their guys pick it up, and Duren ends up shoving him, and so it's a foul on Duren. So that was a disappointing thing. And then we come down later, and then Duren gets called for a foul on Franz, and Franz makes 1 out of 2. And then Cade comes down the court and makes a tough fadeaway jumper, man. And it's 109-107 with 1 minute to go. Then Cade comes down and throws a lob to Duren, which I don't know if Cade threw it a little bit too high or Duren didn't time his jump right, but it was the right play, but it just wasn't executed right. And so it ended up being a turnover. So that was a tough thing to happen. But then Cade comes down. They come down with Banchero, and Cade plays great defense on him. And Banchero drives it right at Cade, and Cade just backs off him and just moves his feet and stays vertical, and they call a foul on Cade. But Banchero missed 2 free throws. So that was cool. So then at the end of the game, we get the ball with 12 seconds left. And again, so Monty subs in Fournier and takes out Asar, which was the right call, good coaching move. So we have another shooter on the court. And then after Cade makes the tough shot, there's a timeout. And then he subs in Grimes and Asar for Ivy and Fournier. And so that, another good move by Monty. So anyway, the end of the game, though, was very disappointing. So Banchero struggled. He struggled. He could not do anything. He was 4 for 16 right up to the end of the game. And then we have to switch off, and they clear out the side of the court, and Duren's one-on-one with him, and he goes to the basket, and he has to do like a step back. But he travels. He blatantly travels, and no call. And Duren kind of goes straight up on him, and they call a foul on Duren. And he makes it. I mean, this is an impossible shot. So here's this guy who's 4 for 16 up to that point, missed 4 free throws. He was 5 for 9 on free throws, and he makes this impossible shot. And you can't tell me that we're not snake bit, And then we, like I said, along with the fouls, but it was just crazy that he was able to make that shot. It was a miracle. And so after the game, they interviewed him. Somebody, I don't know what network did, but he was crying. He was crying. He was real emotional, but I could tell that something was wrong with him. So evidently he was very sick, and he was sick during the game, and you could tell there was something wrong with his look on the face, that he didn't want the ball, and he just wasn't not himself. So anyway, yeah, it was a great game, and it was fun. The only thing that should have been is we should have won. But now we have to turn around, and we're going to play the Knicks on Monday, and that game was supposed to be at our place, but then because of somehow things got goofed up with the in-season tournament, so now the Knicks get to host it, and it'll be interesting. I don't think that OG Anunoby will be playing, or their big guy he was from Kentucky, but anyway, I think they're two of their better players might not be playing. So I'm excited though, because Grimes is going to be probably guarding Jalen Brunson. And so he's the star player, and, they played together. And so it'll be fascinating to see how that happens. First, they didn't start Grimes, so I'm going to be interested if he starts Asar on Brunson, because Brunson is their, like I said, they're missing some guys, and so they're going to count on him to score a lot of points, and so hopefully we can double team Brunson and put Asar on him part of the time, and then Grimes on him part of the time, and I think those guys would make life very tough for him. So, yeah, Fontecchio had another really good game, and he played 31 minutes. He was 7 for 13, 3 for 5 on threes, and it looked really good. And he drove the ball. He's not afraid to drive the ball to the basket. He got blocked at least twice at the rim, but he's not afraid. He's trying to throw it down, but he didn't. But he had 3 rebounds. I said last game he disappointed me. He had, I don't know, maybe 1 rebound and no assists, but he had 5 assists. So that's huge. I was worried that he was going to be a guy that just wanted to shoot it every time, but he had 17 points. He was +1. Asar again was terrific, and he's perfect. We need like 3 Asars, or at least 2 to guard Franz and to guard Banchero, because he does a fabulous job on those guys. So we really shut those guys down. So Banchero ended up 5 for 17, and Franz was 6 for 13, and they scored only 15 points and 14 points. And so those guys both averaged 20. But like I said, it was just, I think, bad luck that the odds of those 4 guys that I talked about that shot the 3 so unbelievably well, that don't usually do that. That was I think a big part of the story of the game. But anyway, Asar 21 minutes. He was 4 for 4, 2 rebounds, 3 turnovers, too many, 8 points, +6. He had the highest +6. But those 5 fouls limited his playing, and he never seems to get a call, and he seems to get calls against him, and I don't know. But I love watching him play. The game could have been different if he didn't have to sit out so much. But during 33 minutes, he was tough again. He was down there playing against all those big guys by himself, but he was 6 for 7 and 4 for 6 on free throws. Like I said, he's our only starter that shot any free throws. 11 rebounds, 3 assists, which is awesome. 1 steal. But the big thing was he had 4 blocks, and we need that rim protection. We need him to, start doing that. He did have 5 fouls, but, we need him to, challenge shots at the rim. Otherwise, we need to get somebody else that can too. But another way we would have won the game, Ivy struggled. And so, I play him. I play him all the time. You got to live with the struggles because he's too good. He's had a great year, especially since he got to start, and he just had a bad night. He did force some tough shots that he maybe shouldn't have. He drove it in there, and they kind of collapsed on him, and he just kind of had to float it up there. He was 3 for 14, so that's bad. And he was 2 for 6 on threes. He did have 7 assists, which is excellent, and he had a block, and he only had 2 turnovers. But we have to have more from him than that. So he had 8 points, but like I said, Troy Brown Jr., he tries hard. I think he could be a player. I still wouldn't mind having him on the roster next year, so we can keep him. I think we can re-sign him for $4 million a year. We have a team option, but we can't play him right now. If we have Fontecchio and Asar playing, and then we're going to play Fournier, we can't. You just can't play everybody. So Wiseman played 15 minutes, 1 for 2. 3 for 4 on free throws, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, 5 points, +1. All those are good numbers for a guy that plays 15 minutes. And I'm not a Wiseman hater like a lot of you guys are. And I can understand why you were, but everything seemed to go wrong for him last night. And he still had, if you just look at the box score, he had a okay game for 15 minutes. But he struggled. It looked like a couple times he should have just dunked it at the rim. But they kept fouling him. But he just was like a step slow quite often. But some games he's not, and still everybody just hates on him. But he wasn't great last night. But Flynn, I know, again, my fear is Monty loves him, and he's probably not going to be on our team next year. And you can't play him and Sasser. You can't play one 10 minutes and one 11 minutes like the Pacer game. And he played 17 minutes last night and 3 for 6, which is good, and 1 for 2 on threes, which is good, 1 for 2 on free throws, which is bad, but he had 3 assists. He seems to like to shoot it. He shot a high percentage of the times that he was handling the ball, and I just can't think that he wasn't getting to play with the Knicks even. So He ended up with 8 points. He was -2. Fournier, again, I don't know. I still say, so you can't play everybody, but you do have to make decisions on guys, and you have to decide who are the guys that we think that we might keep, who are most likely we might keep. And I think Fournier could be. I'm not saying that he will be. And having a guy that's coming off the bench, I do feel a little bit happy for him. You could tell, I think he's only got in like 3 games all year with the Knicks. And so he loves to play basketball. That's evident by watching him play. And he's a smart player, and he's not a great defender. Again, it's a little bit like Bogey stuff. But Bogey had 19 points in the second quarter the other night, and he was like 9 for 9 on threes, I think. So we get to see Bogey play Monday, and I'll always cheer for Bogey and Burks because they were so cool, and they didn't act like they were too good to play on our losing team, and they were all in, and they were good teammates, and they played their butt off. And so it'll be fun to watch them play, but as long as they lose, that's the only thing. I hope they play great, and I hope we win. So Grimes played 26 minutes, so I think so. A lot of these guys I hate, like Monty loved Killian and Livers, and he's going to play him, but it appears that Monty's going to love Grimes, and so that I think that's a good thing. So it remains to be seen, but I mean, based on what he did last year and the year before, last year in the playoffs, they played him 40-some minutes and had him guard Jimmy Butler. And even when he didn't shoot well, they still played him. Tibbs played him 40-some minutes. And then this year, like I said, they just brought in some other guys, but he was 1 for 5, but 2 rebounds, 4 assists. 4 assists is really good for him for not being the primary ball handler ever. And he had 2 steals and a block, and that's just what he's going to do for us. So we shot 51% to their 49%, and we shot 45% on threes, but they shot 50% on threes. And again, guys that weren't great three-point shooters shot, I don't know what I said, it was 8 for 11. I can't see where my stats are for that, but it was 10 for 13. 10 for 13 those 4 guys were. So that was killer. So we had 7 blocks. Of course, Duran had 4 of them, but we only had 12 turnovers to their 10 turnovers. But from free throw line again, we shot bad, but we were 9 for 13, and they were 14 for 21. So that discrepancy, Monty walked away from the press conference after the postgame press conference, and he was muttering under his breath 13 free throws. And that's just hard. And then at the end of the game, Cade got the ball, and he chucked it like over 3/4 of the court, and it hit right on the rim, and it looked like it had a chance. So anyway, that was a tough loss. But it was interesting. Monty's press conference at the end, he said he does 2 languages, English and facts. Well, Monty, you might speak English, but we know by listening to your press conferences that you don't speak facts, because every time you talk at the press conference, you say that you're going to do one thing, and then you turn around and do the opposite. So we know that's not true. So anyway, it's going to be exciting. Again, I'm bummed. A bunch of our potentially winnable games seem that the way the schedule worked out are the second game of a back-to-back. So we got to travel to New York and then travel to Chicago, back-to-back days, and play the Bulls, which they're beatable, but it's tough playing back-to-back, especially if they're not. So, yeah, we just got to hang in there. I'm sad we're down to like 26 games left, and hopefully things will, hopefully we'll get a win tomorrow or Monday. Yeah, it is tomorrow. So, but I am thrilled for my listeners. Again, please subscribe. It was great to see all you guys at the game. I wish I could meet every one of you. I wish I could have this and just go from person to person, and we could just chat like we did last night about our Pistons. And like I said, I just love the passion, and I love the support that I get, and I love that. I was so excited to see those guys, and they were excited to see me, and it was really cool. So anyway, be the reason that somebody feels cared for, like those guys that I met up with at the game. Be that way for somebody. Make them feel special, like those guys made me feel. So thank you for listening, and let's go Pistons.